Keith, one of the things I've learned by dealing with professionals like yourself, that one of the biggest problems that you have is keeping and maintaining your equipment. One of the routine things that your guys constantly are doing is greasing things, because you have all kinds of different things here in the warehouse that you have to take care of. I see mowers, I see bucket linkages, I see brush hogs here, and all of that has to constantly be maintained. One of the biggest problems that you've got is if one of those pieces of equipment goes bad, that's thousands of dollars that has to come straight out of your budget. So maintaining your equipment is going to be very important. Now what I'd like to do, Keith, is start by looking at the grease that you're currently using.
Okay.
Is that this grease right here?
Right here, yeah.
Now this is lithium 2 grease. This is a great grease, Keith. This is one of the best greases that's out there on the market. How long have you been using that?
I've been using that grease for about 20 years.
You're a smart guy to use that grease, because this has been a top seller for a very long time. Now what I'm going to do, Keith, right now is I'm going to show you some of the things that make this grease great, and then show you what our Impact Lube, how that stands up.
It ain't gonna beat mine.
Okay, all right, well, let's go ahead and take a look, because this is a great grease. First thing I want to do is we're going to start. One of the things that's important with grease is it has to stick to where you're putting it. And of course, as you can see, you know, that's a pretty good grease. That's got some decent legs. Most grease, the minute I start to separate my fingers, it'll break apart. Now let's look at Impact Lube here. Look at the legs on that.
Whoa.
What that means, Keith, is no matter what, wherever you put it, it's going to stay in place.
Yeah.
And no matter what the shaking or the motion or the vibration, it's going to stay right where you put it. Isn't that impressive?
Yeah.
Very good. Now, I want you to do something else for me, Keith. Let me go and just wipe this off right here. I want you to take your hands, Keith, and rub them together. What do you feel?
Heat.
Heat. Heat is a big problem with your equipment, because that heat gets in there, and what does it cause your grease to do?
Break down.
Break down, absolutely. Now I've got a pen here. I want you to rub your hands together with that pen. You get any heat?
Not at all.
That's what your grease is supposed to do, is to form that barrier between those two rubbing metal pieces that keeps that friction from building up.
Okay.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to start with the grease that you've got.
My favorite.
And we're going to apply heat. You know, one of the big issues when you guys are doing mowing, you're not just mowing for 20 minutes a day. You're mowing all day long.
All day long.
And the problem is that heat and that friction builds up, and after a while, what happens? What's it doing?
Yeah, it's kind of melting away there.
Absolutely. It's just melting and dripping away. That's why when you come in at the end of the day, what you find is that the grease is all gone. You've got to constantly re-grease and go through more and more grease all the time. Now we're going to take some Impact Lube, and we're going to do the same thing. Now fire is 360 degrees. Notice that we're not dripping at all. This grease is standing up. This will actually withstand temperatures of 550 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh.
But even more important, even after it's burnt, take a look inside. What have we got?
Grease.
We still have grease. So at the end of the day, when you bring your mowers in, they're still going to maintain their grease, which means you're going to have to lubricate your mowers a lot less. You're going to save money on grease.
Yeah.
But most important, you're going to save your equipment and extend the life cycle of that equipment. Now the final thing that really gets to grease is water. Water, you know, washes it out. So we're going to take your grease, which is a very, very good grease, Keith. I'm going to take some I'm going to put it right here in my hand. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some water and I'm going to wash it in. Now look what's happening. Just a little bit of water. What's happening to that grease?
Pretty much washing out.
Absolutely. It's washing it out, it's taking it out, it's not sticking or staying or doing what it's supposed to. Although compared to other greases, this is a top performer, Keith. It really is. It's a great grease. Now we're going to do the same thing with impact lube. I'm going to take some, I'm going to take a lot. We're not just going to do a little, we're going to do a lot. And I'm going to apply the water. Look at how it's still staying right. It's not washing out. We're going to do a lot. What's the grease doing?
Still holding up.
Still holding up, you bet. Even with all that water and it's not washing out, it's standing up to everything that we're throwing at it. Now I want to show you, we've got a customer, the Illinois Department of Transportation likes this grease so much they've been using it since 1993. And we've got a gentleman that runs the warehouse for IDOT in Effingham, Illinois. He wrote us a letter and this is what he said. He said, "We've found CHEMCO Impact Lube to be highly effective in the lubrication of bucket linkages for grade all excavators. The uses of 20 tubes of conventional grease has been reduced to 6 tubes of impact lube. The reason being, impact lube does not wash out. It remains in the bushings, sealing out water and grit. Replacement of pins and bushings has been greatly reduced." So the great thing about impact lube, you've been using a great grease for years, but impact lube, as you can see, is tackier. It stands up to heat and water a lot better. And what that means is you're going to spend less money on grease. You're going to waste less time with your guys having to go through and constantly relubricate everything. But most important, you're going to extend the life of all of your equipment, and that's going to save your budget tons of money. How does that look to you?
Which one? Yours or mine?
How does the impact lube look to you, Keith?
Looks good. Looks good.
Great. Keith, we package this 4 dozen to a case, 2 dozen to a half case. What's going to be better for you, a case or a half case?
I think I'll take a case of that.
Very good.